I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concerns should raise them now. Okay, and the clock is ticked over to past. So the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence, and I've got Tim Barker, Mike Owen and Karen Calder. I think that's... and there's no others, are there? Item 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. Simon.
Yeah, if I can declare personal pecuniary interest on item 14, because my niece actually works as a carer at
Yeah, will you leave the room at that point?
I'll leave the room.
Okay, thank you. If somebody can remind him, in case we forget. Minutes of the 25th of March. Would somebody like to move?
Yeah, I'll move.
Mal, second, Claire, thank you. All happy?
Yeah.
Public questions and statements. Mr. Peter Norman of Ludlow, sir, would you like to take the table? And your question has been received and answered.
Correct.
And you get a supplementary if you'd like one.
Thank you very much. Can I just make clear that although I am a member of the Ludlow Campaign for Fairness, I am not speaking formally on their behalf, but as an individual.
Absolutely fine.
I received the reply to the question that I sent in advance. It's lengthy. I've skimmed it, because I only just received it, and your explanation of delay, I would say, appeared perfectly reasonable, although the fact that the details of the business plan are on exempt paper means that I am not in a position to take an independent view on the significance of its contents. However, in view of the fact that you personally...
You're happy to sit down, sir, if you're more comfortable.
I'm fine as long as you can hear me.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
However, in view of the fact that you personally are both the leader of this council and the recently appointed chair of IP&E, would you not agree that there is a clear conflict of interest between your roles, which is contrary to the principles of good governance? Now, if we add to this the fact that you have a declared pecuniary interest in IP&E trading, for which a dispensation has been granted, would you not agree there is good justification for members of the public to consider that Shropshire Council is in danger of becoming an autocracy? How do you respond?
No. In a simple words, I don't see any conflict of interest because the company is 100% owned by Shropshire Council. This cabinet is a shareholder committee, and I think as the company, I mean this is purely my opinion now, as the company grows and develops, I think the board of directors will change, and we will probably be looking for members of the community maybe come on as non-executive directors. But at the moment, there's been such limited things in there, I don't see any difficulty, any conflict of interest.
May I respond?
I'm sorry, no. You get a question and an answer. I'm sorry, that's the rules.
Okay.
I mean, if you want, as I said to you before the meeting, if you want to come and have a conversation with me at any time, I'm more than happy to do that.
You're the chair, and you say I can't comment. So
Well, no, I'm not saying it as the chair, sir. I'm saying it as the rules. We have my legal advisor, Claire Porter, sitting next to me, and that's the constitutional rules. And if I defer to you, I mean, every other person would have a dialogue with us. So it's nothing personal, but I'm more than happy to meet with you at any time and have a conversation about anything you'd like. There's nothing at all that's been hidden about IP&E. Okay, thank you. Which leads me, item 4, we've done. Item 5, matters referred from Scrutiny Council, there are none. Item 6, reports of scrutiny committees. The report of the Economic Growth Redesign Task and Finish Group.
Okay.
Stephen Dean. Madge, excuse me, you've asked to speak. Do you want to?
Very briefly.
At what point?
Either now or when...
Shall we let him go first, or would you prefer Madge to speak first? Come on, Madge, come sit by Roger, and we'll have your contribution first. If you want to do that.
It will be brief. I was very pleased to see this, can I just say that to start off with, because I felt Shropshire Council hasn't been pulling its full weight and what it could contribute towards the extended economy, particularly in our rural areas. However, in the bit where you say you need to look more closely at certain areas, one of the areas which is extremely difficult in the southwest of the county, and which efforts, and I'm looking to an email from Chris Taylor on the 14th of November, where he put a map out of where the masts are going to be for the non-stop or mobile I'd be very grateful if some pressure, some effort, some investigation, because when I contacted the firm that put the original out, I was told there was no plans at all to either increase those masts or to upgrade what was already there, and there's pressures for you there. So I'd be very grateful, Chairman, if that could be taken on board for the future.
Thank you very much. You have my full sympathy on that. Right.
Right, I'm just going to introduce this paper. This is a paper from Enterprise and Grow, where we, as Enterprise and Grow scrutiny, worked as a critical friend all the way through Claire Cox and her team in the redesign of this economic paper. A great deal of work went into this. Dean chaired it. I was the vice chair of the Task and Finish group. And I'm going to hand over to Dean now, because I do really want him to read through and you listen to the recommendations that we have got. A great deal of work went into this.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of work, as Steve said, has gone into this Task and Finish group, which was originally set up in November and was due to report back in March. But due to the scale of the task that we were taking on, scrutiny accepted that we would perhaps be best served with taking a bit more time and looking at it properly, which has enabled us to produce some recommendations that would otherwise perhaps not have come to light. Now, if I can just take you through the recommendations as initially as outlined in the cover paper. Recommendation 2.1 around the economic growth redesign work that Claire Cox has been leading on. We have formed the opinion, from all the evidence we've seen, that the implementation of that cannot come soon enough, and that we endorse fully what Claire is trying to achieve, and effectively we need to get on and do it now. 2.2 is the acknowledgement that Shropshire Council has a role to play in promoting Shropshire, and that we need to work more effectively with partners. 2.3 is very important. It's around how we interact with the business community, and we have identified areas where the business community's confidence in having a dialogue with Shropshire Council is lacking. That needs to be addressed. We need to be able to communicate with the business community on their terms, not just in public sector speak. And that folds in nicely to 2.1 in the redesign work of relationship managers. It should be a far more commercial bent towards dialogue between council and businesses. 2.5, 6 and 7. When we first looked at these back in January, was before the asset management strategy was approved by Cabinet in February. However, what we did identify were significant problems within the asset portfolio held by the economic growth and development team. And so that is why we recommended that asset portfolio be moved back into the corporate landlord, and that this asset management strategy, which was approved by Cabinet in February, be implemented immediately to deal with the other problems that we identified during the report. So, to sum up on those recommendations, we missed out one recommendation, that was 2.4, and that is the need for a commercially driven website. Now, Shropshire Council's existing investment website is, in our view, not fit for purpose in attracting businesses to invest in Shropshire. And our recommendation is that investment be put into a new standalone, commercially driven website called Invest in Shropshire, which will be benchmarked against the Invest in Suffolk website, which we've seen and investigated as considered best practice across the local government sector.
On 2.4, we recognise that our council website isn't up to scratch and we need a standalone. Also, as part of that, we feel that grants that we give out to businesses we shouldn't be doing that. Our help should be addressing people's needs that come into the county, holding their hand, whether it's setting up a business, finding a unit, or applying them to planning and going through the planning, have dedicated people to, we've all had examples where people have come into the county and left the county because they're not getting the help. It's help, not grants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I'd just like to draw your attention to the final page of the report, item 7. There are 2 areas that we've recommended for further work by scrutiny and the task and finish groups. 7.1 is around Shropshire's economic growth sectors. That's the 5 identified sectors in the economic growth strategy. And to what extent Shropshire Council is actually actively promoting and supporting those growth sectors, as opposed to them just being named growth sectors in the strategy. The second one is once if indeed the decision is taken to move the economic growth assets back into the corporate landlord, then from that stage for the corporate landlord to assess the needs of the tenants, which aren't necessarily being uniformly met under the current arrangements. But we're happy to answer any questions that Cabinet may have.
Okay, thank you. Before I call Claire, who's indicated, and anyone else, can I just say, really good report, really good piece of work, both of you councillors, but particularly to Claire, sitting there, Claire Cox, you did a really good job, Claire. Thank you. Claire.
Yes, thank you.
Too many Claires.
Yes. I was going to say, it's obviously taken a lot of time, and it is a really, really good report. What I would like to do is actually, for Cabinet to actually note the report and pass the actions over to Steve Charney as portfolio holder, because there is quite a lot in there. And I think it needs somebody to lead it up, and so that would be my proposal, to note the report and to pass it over to Steve Charney as portfolio holder. Thank you.
Roger? And then Alan.
Thank you, Chairman. As a member of that work group, I endorse everything that's been said, but it's something that we do need to push ahead with, especially the website and also the rear page conclusions that was addressed. It's not something that this council, Shropshire, can afford to miss. I think if we want to get there, and we do need to get there, we do need to take it on board more sooner rather than later.
Well, it's a wonderful day, Roger, because I completely agree with every word you said.
Good.
Yeah. Sorry.
Shall I just come back once more?
Well, I've got Alan first,
sorry, yes.
then I'll call you, and then I'm going to the portfolio holder. Alan.
I was on this also, and I do congratulate those who were responsible for drawing this up with input from officers. And I do think we ought to recognise that the current regime is in a state of chaos, and I think needs a root and branch clear out and restructure everything that's proposed here. It was only too obvious at one meeting where we talked to leading members of commercial estate and letting agents who work nationally, and they explained a situation where there was a complete lack of trust in what the council was doing, complete lack of integration with commercial services, and really a lack of any coherence in what was being done. And that brought it home to me that if all the other evidence didn't, that things were not right and that it needed radical change very rapidly.
Yeah, I think we came to the conclusion there were issues, and that's the reason we're delighted that Claire took on the role and has done such an excellent job. And we do need, as both you gentlemen say, I agree, we need to move quickly to get these things resolved. Claire, and then I'm going to Stephen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I agree with a lot of what's been said, but I think it's a big report. There's a lot in there, and I think Steve Charlie would be the ideal person to prioritise and put this into action, as opposed to approach it as an ad hoc basis. I think you need a specific plan to deal with it. Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you, Leader. It seems that we're all in agreement for once. First, I just want to thank Dean and Steve for a great report. I'm not sure which one's which, but it's certainly a feel of good cop, bad cop over there to get the job done. So thank you to both of you. Following the ratification of this, well, hopefully today, I can inform Cabinet that the recommendations will be fully implemented almost immediately. We have a timeline laid out already. We hope to have a redesigned and fit-for-purpose team in place for September, ready for the new funding streams coming forward from the LEP. Hopefully, as a result of that, we'll be having shovel-ready products, or packages rather, dropping off and in place, ready to apply for that funding. And hopefully we'll have more success in the future, drawing down European and central government funding as a result. I totally take on board all the things which Dean and Steve have helped us here today, and I can only say that we'll be moving at pace on this one, so watch this space. So thank you both.
Okay, thank you both. Everybody happy with that? Thank you very much indeed. We're now going to take item 8, because I believe Karen has to go to another meeting. So item 8.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Leader. It's Karen Hutchins to handle it. Thank you. The paper really is a continuation from the 22nd of January, when we brought a paper to Cabinet, when we approved the intention of transferring education support services to IP&E. I think throughout it all, it's absolutely essential that we retain the confidence of the schools. The report continues the process of seeking to transfer services to IP&E and sets out proposals to transfer some key services under an enabling contract. This provides an interim arrangement whilst further details on the conditions for transfer can be agreed. Staff will be seconded to IP&E, allowing the company and the council to test the delivery model within IP&E. Considerable work has been done in preparation for this. You really can't underestimate the work that's going on behind the scenes on this. The schools have been contracted, have contracted for all services under the redesigned Inspire to Learn branch, so that there is actually no sort of confusion, if you like. So we've rebranded to Inspire to Learn, and that is how they are contracting their services. We're working with schools representatives to understand and respond to their needs better, which I think is absolutely imperative. They're the customers. We need to make sure that they're happy with our service, and any suggestions that they make, we really do take on board and work on. And the menu of services available has been focused, and our expectation is that this range of services available will continue to develop. And I think it's really important that these services are flexible, that we don't just have a package, but we're actually we are able to meet their needs and co-design a package for each of the schools. So I move the recommendations.
Thank you very much. I've got Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. In principle, not against this, but I'm not happy with it because as I understand it, the strategic contract with IP&E prevents our scrutiny committees scrutinising services that IP&E deliver. We can only talk to the commissioning.
Yeah, can I just ask a question about that? Because it struck me when we were talking about it the other day. There's nothing, the refuge collection service is done by Veolia. And Steve, you've scrutinised the refuge collection services. So I don't accept that's true. I don't think it's any different to any other company that provides services for the council. I mean, we have scrutinised Veolia's refuse service, so there's no reason why we couldn't scrutinise this. Am I right?
I'm glad to hear that. The information I have is that IP&E is a separate company, and employees of that company will not be subject to scrutiny.
Well,
so what I'm saying is
exactly the same, but it's exactly the same. You can't scrutinise the directors of Veolia.
But Veolia actually is commissioned by council, as I understand it, same as Ringway, and I admit that both Ringway and Veolia come along to actually talk to the scrutineers and represent it. As I understand it, and I'm told, if scrutiny wishes to do it, scrutiny would be able to call in the commissioning officer for that service. We would not be able to talk with anybody else. And why I bring it up here is that I see in the recommendations it says that to delegate authority to agree the terms of the enabling service to be commissioned.
Can I stop you there just for a second? I don't think it's a problem.
Okay.
I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with scrutiny calling the appropriate officers. Just like
officers, IP&E.
Well, IP&E, well, they're all the same. So I don't see there's going to be any difficulty in that whatsoever. I really don't see. If you want Tim Smith or whoever to come along for scrutiny, I think they would come along.
Could I add?
But let Roger finish first.
You'll give way, Roger.
I'll give way with your.
I might let you come back, Roger. You never know.
Well,
we had a meeting of the Scrutiny Reorganisation or Scrutiny Review Group yesterday, and this specifically came up because that's one of the things I raised, that our capacity to scrutinise companies or bodies that we have commissioned with. And the legal view was that, and also the opposite view, was that we would be scrutinising the commissioning officer and would be working through that person rather than having any right. Now, don't finish.
No, I wasn't going to interrupt you.
Rather than having any right, and I mean right, not an ability to ask, rather than have any right to actually have a scrutiny on the group, organisation or company that is providing the service. Now that obviously means IP&E.
Yeah.
What was suggested was that in order for this council to have that capacity to scrutinise, is that in every contract that's been signed through the commissioning process, we have that as a clause that the company will agree to participate and answer questions in the scrutiny process. And I would suggest at this stage, before this goes any further, that that clause is put in, just to have that assurance that we are actually going to be able, and this applies to Circa if that's ever renewed, or Veolia if that's ever renewed, so that we can have the assurance that we will be able to scrutinise the provider of the services directly, because I think that's vital.
Well,
if we are to have proper.
Well, hopefully you'll be pleased. I mean, I look to my colleagues around here, but I have no problem with that. I don't think it needs to delay this at all, because we're not like national politicians. We don't need to write our things up in tablets of stone or pass legislations for people to believe us. I think if at this table we say, we say that we think that's an admirably sensible thing to do, then we'll do it. Isn't that right?
I did try to help them. I think that a simple clause to that effect would give a sense of assurance. We are going to be commissioning, or you are later today, with a provider for a care home, and that type of clause should go into each and every one of those type of contracts, so that we can question them directly and not have to go
to be absolutely clear. Veolia was scrutinised, and directors or senior managers from Veolia came along, and I see this would be absolutely no different whatsoever. And I have no problem with taking that on board, none whatsoever. And
what I would suggest, Leader, is that we actually put it into the enabling contract, if that's
what I'm suggesting.
That's what I was suggesting.
I
don't see any problem.
But we must remember that the schools are purchasing this service. They're the actual
customers.
This
one is slightly different because
it is
the contract, the schools, is with the school. But it never seemed to me that would be an issue, really, because we own the company 100%. It would be slightly bizarre if our own staff refused to come to scrutiny. wouldn't it? Where Veolia do, Ringway we can scrutinise. It's no different, Roger. But going forward, with the bigger picture, if what you're saying, taking Inspired to Learn out of the picture and going forward as we become a commissioning council where more things will be commissioned, it makes sense.
I've asked the question a number of times at council and in other places, and the answer that I've been getting every time is that IP&E is a freestanding company answerable to its directors, but they may come to scrutiny. It would be logical and good if they did come to scrutiny, but there's nothing in the enabling contract which says that they have to. And all I was going to ask was that in the enabling contract
Roger,
here, to echo
Roger, we've just agreed it. We've agreed it. But let's be absolutely clear, because I think, and I've said this to you before, and I'll try and explain it again. The shareholder committee, the company ultimately is not responsible to the directors. All companies are responsible to the shareholders. And the shareholder committee, as you know, for this company is the cabinet, made up of councillors. So the shareholders ultimately hold the keys to the company, not the board. The board is answerable to the shareholders. So, but we've accepted it now, so I'm drawing a line under that.
Can I say one? It would also be good if there was an annual meeting of IP&E at which councillors could come along and ask questions as well.
Well, we've taken on board what you said, and I never saw that as an issue or a problem. And for goodness sake, Roger, you know, you sat down with all the directors and myself for 2.5 hours and asked any questions you wanted. There was nothing confidential or secret about it. You know, maybe you don't understand, but that's not my fault. Anyway, do you want to say anything else, anyone? Mal?
I was going to keep quiet, but I think I need to speak because I'm probably declaring interest as a chair of government of schools, like a lot of people. And I think this has been set up, and I think it's being tested already because it's all about what services we provide for those schools. And those schools will scrutinise it because if they don't like what we're giving them, they're going to go somewhere else for their services. And they can do that already, and I think we need to make that quite clear because that didn't come across at full council. Any school can go to anywhere currently to get the services they want. Entrust are on the doorstep, which is Capita and Staffordshire, and they've been into my schools already asking the questions. We'll provide you the same services as Shropshire Council, and we'll do it for X amount of pounds. So it's important, as Anne's indicated, that we meet the needs of our schools and give them what they need. So it's a competitive market. We've got to get it right. The only one I don't scrutinise is I think also the governance arrangements. You've mentioned scrutiny. One of the most important part is the governance of these organisations, which I think we all ought to be involved in, and making sure it's doing the right things in the first place.
Absolutely, absolutely, completely correct. I mean, that is the bottom line with this. This is slightly different because it's a contract with the schools. Go on, Roger. Sorry, last time.
I'm also a chair of governance. I recognise that, but I think it's but I would want to maintain the same relationship as there is now. I'm not asking for anything so the scrutiny can do, and we sell the services and it's a trading company, but I would like the scrutiny to maintain its present access to any of the services that are on offer. That's where I'm coming from.
But exactly the same as contracts that are already in place with external organisations like Ringway and Veolia, which have both been subject to the scrutiny process. So we've agreed that, and I don't see I never saw a problem in that. So we've had the item. Thank you for your points, Mal. They're very salient. Everybody happy?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We'll now go backwards to item 7. Which future delivery customer services in Shropshire. Mal, are you?
Leader, I'm going to do that in the absence of my code. The report is twofold as I read it, and that is to do two things. One is to inform the cabinet members and councillors and the public of what the current customer services centre does, and secondly to ask us to look at and explore the options for future delivery of customer services, because clearly we talked already about how the council's changing. The first thing I would do, what I would recommend to all cabinet members and also colleagues sitting in the audience that when you get the opportunity to go down, please go down and visit the customer services centre and see what they do.
It's brilliant.
Because I think you'll be surprised, as I was, to perhaps I can put it nicer, how little we know of what we think how it functions. So I'd welcome you all to do that and have a better understanding of it. I think we realise that the customer services centre probably does need to change in one way or another. But having said that, I took the opportunity when I was down there to ask for a couple of printouts of my sections one was to do with planning, and the other one was to do with housing, to say what does the customer services do for me? Because remembering that Star Housing are now independent and run separately, planning has its own frontline desk that deals with the public. So what does the customer services do? And if I'm not going to go through these now, but I'll share them with you, and I think you'd all be surprised by the amount of work that they cover. Because what they're not is a messaging service. What they don't do is take the call and push it through, as we might believe, to the sections that we've got. What they do is deal with our frontline customers. So what it's proven is, although we're moving some of our sections across into different areas, the public are still using our customer service centre as their point of focus. And on the majority of occasions, the staff within that, who I have to say I was impressed with, some of it done through scripting, are actually dealing with the issues there and then. Clearly there's something we need to put through. So I think it's important that we understand what they do, not just on mine. I think adult social care, children's services will also acknowledge the importance of the centre. And one area that we'd all totally support is the role of safeguarding. And the customer service has done that. I also sound if I'm selling it to you, and I don't mean to do that. But I think what I'm trying to say to you, the customer service has got a future value with the council. And we do need to look at it and say, what can we do differently? How can we improve it? What can we get the customer to do more for themselves rather than having to answer every call for them? So this is just a starter leader to get it off the ground, and as the report says, it will come back at a later point with another report to us. So happy to move the recommendations within the report.
Okay, well, I'll happily second that. And can I add to what you said? I think anybody that's got time to go down there and see what they're doing, it's really, really impressive. It's incredibly well managed. They know when they're going to be busy, and they know when demand's going to be low. And when demand is low, they run training and they train the staff, and that's why across the range of things we do, they're incredibly well trained. So do go down and have a look for yourselves, colleagues. Okay, we're all happy with that? Yeah. Go on, Alan.
Some of our services are recommended to go directly into IP&E. Others are recommended to go through a commercial oriented commissioning process, presumably. What are the criteria for deciding which way these things will go?
I would suggest, right, the whole, one of the purposes, the council cannot trade services and make a profit. And it was apparent that some of the services we already trade, there was potential to actually generate income. So I think when we're looking at things to move across into the company, it's things we believe can be actively traded. If it wasn't for the aspect of trading and actually potentially generating profits, then the redesign work and everything could happily take place within the council. George, you want to make a comment on that? I mean, that's broadly speaking.
Absolutely, that's the broad principles, and then what officers follow is a commissioning approach, which is a sort of step-by-step approach, which clearly lays out a high-level business case, whether there is scope for it to do as Keith has said, whether there is scope for it to be applicable to go into IP&E, but there's a formal commissioning approach that officers follow on a step-by-step basis as well. And if you want to look at that, I'm more than happy to share that with you, take you through it.
And whilst we're on the subject of IP&E, it tends to look on the face of things that it's not very profitable at the moment, but the truth is, for example, communications, before we sent communications across, their budget was cut by 115,000. So they're delivering the same service for 115,000 less. Now that doesn't show us a profit in IP&E because we took it out before they went across, but the reality, that's 115,000 we've saved, which the council would have been paying out before. Okay, we all happy with that? Thank you. Item 9, IP&E annual business plan and update report. Steve.
Thank you, Leader. Seems to be all IP&E today.
Doesn't it?
I'm delighted to present Cabinet with the annual business plan for IP&E. I think before we sort of move the paper, I think it's worth highlighting a few facts about IP&E, because there's been a lot of conversation about it, both at Council and Cabinet already. As Keith already alluded to, it's not always about profit, and sometimes it's about savings before it actually gets there. IP&E have enabled Shropshire Council to make significant savings as well as reinvesting profits back into public services. by the end of the financial year 2017, based on services transferred to date, the ongoing savings to the council will be in the region of 800,000, and that's irrespective of any profit made within the company. IP&E do not have any private shareholders. As it's already been discussed today, Cabinet is the shareholder for the company. It is a Shropshire Council wholly owned limited company and is accountable to and by Council and Cabinet. Accounts will be published online, and for those of you who may not have heard about IP&E previously, it has been to Cabinet or Council 12 times already, so that it can't be said that details of IP&E have been tucked away and hidden and divulged in secret. That is definitely not the case. And on the back of that information, I think it's clear that the direction of travel for the Shropshire Council is via IP&E, and I fully endorse the approach that's being taken to commission stuff into IP&E for the future. On the back of that, I'd just like to move the report, and I'm happy to discuss any questions that arise.
Okay. Roger, you're first.
Thank you, Chairman. Note the report. I also note the public question that was asked before and the lateness that this report came out. But also in it, I see that in the risk assessment, it says 3.4, community. One of the key aims is to build community and social capital. But then in 3.6, it says that there are no consultation requirements in the strategic contract. And it's that strategic contract that is in place. It gives me and many others, and I'm only a simple person, I don't understand B follows A, C follows B, so it needs to be spelled out to me many times. And it's been tried with this, and as you say, I don't understand it, I don't. And neither does over 50% of this council understand it, and 80% of the public of Shropshire understand it. I also note in 4.1 about the profit assumptions when IP&E was first formed in 2012.
Could I stop you there? Could
Said,
I just stop you there? I'll let you come back. Claire's pointing out to me on 3.6 in the road. However, performance and financial reviews will be undertaken as set in clause 7 of the strategic contracts and specific consultation undertaken as part of any service transfer between the council and IP&E.
yeah.
So go on.
In any transfer of services, so any alteration which IP&E, in this contract it says in here, IP&E can come back with initiatives to Shropshire Council, Shropshire Council can go forward with initiatives to IP&E, to alter services, to do services. IP&E can do it with no consultation. It is not built in because it says so in that.
The legal to my left is saying no, that's not the case. Do you want to elucidate that?
If there were any changes to the services, we would contract with any company, in this case IP&E, we would contract. If there were then any changes, we would have to consult with the public on any changes to services. Nothing changes on that. Legislation, common law is quite clear. That would always occur. It's not specified in the strategic contract because you don't know what's coming in. There may not be anything coming in, but when it does go in, you would always consult on that service. Any changes, we have to. That's,
you have to by law.
That's the law.
So I have an undertaking then that all these services under Fulcrum will be changing, like planning, public protection, if and when it is taken over and it is no longer delivered by seconded staff, if any alterations to that, it would be subject to a full public consultation.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I think Claire, Head of Legal and Deputy, made it very clear, didn't you, Claire? I don't understand why
Roger,
you're confused.
That is very clearly the service that planning and regulatory services are going to be provided for by IP&E. That's stated in the contract. There can't be any change to that. If there's a change, then that will be between the council and IP&E. And if there are going to be changes, we would have to go out to the public again and consult on that. So it's all going to be very clearly specified in the contract. And IP&E cannot change that contract unless we agree. And then we would have to consult if that was the case.
We have to consult.
You can't just change.
And that's where I'm coming back again, Chairman, to the scrutiny, in that where does a scrutiny process go in to do it? I've been told Alan, and I wasn't aware that Alan was going to bring that up yesterday, the scrutiny process and the IP&E, there is a barrier between it. I've heard what you said today, and I take a little bit of sustenance from that, but the proof will be in the evening.
Yeah.
I'm told that there is nothing in the strategic contract which will ensure that IP&E and the deliverers of the service that IP&E do out there can be called to account by this council.
Let me make a point back. Right, this is why I get a little exasperated. The initial option before we decided to move to create Inspire to Learn within a council 100% owned company, the recommendations from officers was to move the service across to Entrust. Entrust is Staffordshire Council and Capita. Capita own 51% of Entrust, a private company. We chose not to do that. And the reason we chose not to do that is we believe that our education services are so good that we have a product we can sell to other councils. And we're not frightened of Entrust because we think we're better. And we're getting all this flack. We could have privatised it, but we chose not to. We're keeping it in the council hands, in the council's ownership. And yet everybody seems more upset about that, and we've got more flack about that than if we'd gone across and transferred it into Entrust. We wouldn't be getting the aggravation we're getting now. We certainly didn't over Veolia, we certainly didn't over Ringway. This is a company that's 100% owned by the council, and that's why we have 100% control over it. If we'd gone to Entrust, it would be privatisation, we'd have had no control over it. Go on, last one.
I've not used the word privatisation. I've never used that
word. Well, no, lots
word.
of people have, Roger.
I have never used that word privatisation. And I would talk about the profits of this, as was originally said with IP&E when it was first set up. It was going to return, I don't know how much to the council, and I see 5 years later it isn't expected to return any. But if we pick up Veolia,
No, I'm sorry, Roger. No, you've got to listen to me what you just said, right? Let's take things one stage at a time. I think we need to move on. I think we've done this to death. You keep your opinions and I'll keep mine. So if you'd like to switch your mic on, we're moving on. Well, I'll let Mal speak and then we're going to move on to the next.
I'd just like to make one quick comment, one quick comment. Fulcrum was mentioned, and I think around the contracts, Roger, and it's funny because my fear is the other way around. Actually, the contracts that have been drawn up are asking for more from IP&E than we're asking ourselves at the moment. So for me, it's going to be much more scrutinised than we currently do, and I think that's got to be good, isn't it? So it's not going the other way. People are getting the impression that everything's going out to IP and we're not going to scrutinise, not going to look at our governance.
Which is
it's just the opposite.
It's complete nonsense.
And the thing we're also missing about some of the things we want to do, if we all believe in what we want to do, is that hopefully with some of the processes we get, procurement should be easier for some of the organisation. Recruitment should be easier because we've talked about recruitment in the past, and I struggle with recruitment for planning and the time taken. I hope that by going through this process, things can be speeded up. So it's not all negative. There's a lot of good stuff going on here that I think we seem to somehow miss, and we just go to what is the income that we've got. It's not just about income, it's about efficiency. It's about doing things more effectively. So I think, see the good stuff, Roger, as well as the negatives. That's all I'm saying to you.
Okay, thanks for that. No, you're absolutely right. Okay, so we're happy to accept that? Yeah. Which leads me to item 10, solution of public and press. Would somebody like to move? Seconded?
Second.
In favour? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'll have to ask the press and public to leave now, please.